Your plan just died. You did everything right. You worked. You prepared. You wanted it more than the people around you. And still, the door closed in your face. And something inside you cracked. You have felt that crack. The interview that went to someone else. The relationship that ended when you thought it was finally working. The morning you woke up and realized the future you built in your head was never coming. Here is the question that should keep you here. What if the smartest minds in history had a way to want something with everything they had and still never break when they lost it? Not by caring less, by thinking differently. There was a mental technique buried in the writings of men who watched empires rise and fall that made disappointment almost impossible. And once you understand it, you can never unsee it. Let me take you to a room in Rome, moments before a man loses everything. His name is Seneca. He is one of the richest, most powerful men alive, advisor to an emperor, a voice that shaped a kingdom. And on this particular day, a messenger arrives with news that will end his world. The emperor, the boy he tutored, the man he served, has turned on him. The order is simple. Seneca is to take his own life. Now imagine you are him. Everything you built, every year of careful climbing, gone in a single sentence from a spoiled ruler. Most men in that moment would collapse. They would beg. They would rage against the unfairness of it. They would ask the question we all ask when life detonates our plans. Why me? But Seneca does not break. And this is the part that almost no one understands. He does not break because decades earlier he had already prepared for this exact moment. Not this event specifically, but the shape of it, the possibility. He had trained his mind with a single razor-sharp habit that made even death feel like something he had already made peace with. What was that habit? Watch how he lived, and you will see it hiding in plain sight. Years before, Seneca wrote something strange to a friend. He said that when he set out to do anything, to sail, to travel, to pursue any goal, he added a silent phrase in his mind, 4 words that changed everything. He would say, "I will do this, if nothing prevents me, if fate allows, if circumstances do not intervene." The Stoics had a name for this. They called it hypexeresis, the reserve clause. And it sounds almost too small to matter. A little mental footnote, a quiet disclaimer whispered under the breath of every ambition. But here is where it gets strange. That tiny phrase was the difference between a man who is destroyed by life and a man who cannot be touched, because the reserve clause does something to your mind that nothing else does. It splits your goal into 2 pieces. And most people have never once separated those 2 pieces in their entire lives. They fuse them together, and that fusion is exactly why they suffer. Stay with me, because this is the exact mistake you are making right now. Think about the last thing you truly wanted: a promotion, a yes from someone, a number in your bank account. Now, when you pictured that goal, what did you actually attach your happiness to? Be honest. You attached it to the outcome, to the result landing in your hands. You told yourself, quietly, "I will be okay when I get this. I will feel whole when this happens." And that is the trap, because the outcome was never yours to control. It never was. The Stoics saw this with brutal clarity. They divided the entire world into 2 categories, and this single division is the foundation of everything. There are things up to you, your effort, your judgment, your choice to act, the intention you bring. And there are things not up to you, the economy, other people's decisions, the weather, the timing, the 10,000 invisible forces that decide whether your effort turns into a result. You have been staking your piece on the second category, the one you cannot control. So of course you break. You built your house on the one piece of ground that was never yours. Seneca built his on the other. Here is how it worked in his mind. When he pursued a goal, he threw himself into it completely, full intensity, nothing held back. This is what people misunderstand about the Stoics. They were not cold. They were not detached men shrugging at life. Seneca wanted, he acted, he aimed high and moved hard, but he attached his sense of self, his inner stability, not to whether the goal succeeded, but to whether he had acted well in pursuing it. The trying was his. The outcome belonged to fate. So when the outcome went his way, wonderful. And when it did not, He had already reserved a part of himself that the loss could never reach. He wanted the result with an open hand, not a clenched fist, and an open hand cannot be pried apart. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled the entire known world, used the same weapon. Every morning he told himself he would meet ungrateful people, liars, people who would betray and disappoint him. He was not being bitter, he was reserving. He was reminding himself that other people's behavior was not up to him, only his response was. So when the betrayal came, and it always came, it did not shatter him. He had already made room for it. And now I have to tell you about the moment this idea nearly gets misunderstood, the moment it sounds like giving up. Because you might be thinking, isn't this just lowering your expectations? Isn't this just protecting yourself by not caring? If I tell myself it might not work out, aren't I already halfway to quitting? No. And this is the turning point of the entire idea. Watch the difference. A man who lowers his expectations aims lower. He wants less, so he risks less, so he becomes less. That is fear wearing a disguise. The reserve clause is the opposite. You aim as high as you dare. You want it fully, but you release your grip on the one thing you were never holding anyway, the guarantee. You keep the fire, and you drop the demand that the universe must reward it. Think of an archer. This is the image the Stoics themselves used. The archer trains for years. He draws the bow. He aims with total focus. Everything in his power he does perfectly. But the moment the arrow leaves the string, a gust of wind, a moving target, 1,000 things beyond him, that is no longer his. His success was never the arrow hitting. His success was the perfect shot. If he ties his soul to where the arrow lands, he is at the mercy of the wind for the rest of his life. You have been living at the mercy of the wind, and here is the part that should stop you cold. Modern psychology has quietly rediscovered exactly what Seneca knew 2,000 years ago. Researchers who study resilience found that the people who recover fastest from setbacks are not the naive optimists who assume everything will work out. They are the ones who hold what psychologists call a flexible, realistic hope. They pursue hard while fully accepting that reality may not cooperate. There is even a concept called defensive pessimism, where imagining the ways something could go wrong actually lowers anxiety and improves performance. The Stoics were not just philosophers. They were, it turns out, right, because the pain you feel when you fail is not caused by the failure itself. It is caused by the gap between what happened and what you demanded should happen. Close that gap, and the pain has nowhere to live. So, let us go back to that room in Rome. Seneca, facing the end. Why did he not break? Now you know. Because for his entire life, he had practiced holding his plans with the reserve clause. If fate allows. He had never once staked his inner self on outcomes he could not control. Not his wealth, not his status, not even his own life. He had wanted to live well, and living well to him was something no emperor could take. It was the one thing that was always up to him. So when they came to take everything else, they found that the part of him that mattered was already beyond their reach. History tells us he faced the end calmly, still speaking, still teaching, unshaken to the last. That is what this technique buys you. Not a life without loss. A self that loss cannot dismantle. And here is what you can do with it tonight. It costs nothing. Take the next goal that matters to you. The real one. The one that scares you a little. Say it out loud. Then add the reserve clause to the end of it. I will pursue this with everything I have, and I accept that the result is not fully mine. Then split it in two on paper. On one side, write what is truly up to you. Your effort, your preparation, your attitude, your next action. Pour yourself entirely into that column. On the other side, write what is not up to you, and consciously, deliberately, let it go. Not because you do not care, because caring about what you cannot control is a debt you will pay in suffering forever. Do this, and something quiet happens. The fear that has been sitting on your chest loosens, because you are no longer betting your peace on a coin flip. You are betting it on the one thing that never leaves you, how you show up. So, here is the truth beneath all of it. You will never control whether you win. You will always control whether you break. And the moment you stop demanding that life go your way is the exact moment life stops being able to destroy you. The Stoics did not fear failure because they had quietly redefined what failure even was. A failed outcome was just weather. A failed effort was the only thing that counted, and that was always in their hands. So tonight, before you chase the thing you want, whisper the 4 words that made emperors unbreakable, if fate allows, and then go all in anyway. That is not weakness. That is the strongest a human mind can be. If this reached something in you, stay a while. There is more here worth sitting with.